it's Denise from Motley Fabric, and today we're making pillowcases. This is a great beginner project and just a really fast make. Last Christmas I had some nephews over and I just made them each their individual pillowcases, and they took them home when they were done, and I made one for my niece around Thanksgiving. I've also made these Halloween themed because you can fit so much candy in these babies. They're great. Along with the make today, the pillowcase, we're going to learn how to do a French seam. So I'm just going to show you real quick. Here it is. Look, there's no raw edges. Everything's encased in here. There's no pinking. You don't have to zigzag. You don't have to serge. And your final product really looks quite nice, I think. So, and also if you're a beginner and you don't know how to sew around a corner, I'm going to show it to you. It's super easy. It's literally a few seconds interlude, and then you'll be a master. So without further ado, before we go, actually, this is called Beachside Pretty by Camelot Fabrics. This is 3 of them, and their names are escaping me right now, but I know it's from the Beachside Pretty collection by Camelot, if you like that. And if you live in Eagle, Garfield, or Pitkin counties, or even Summit in the Colorado Rockies, come on down to the shop and you pick out what you want for your pillowcase from what I've got here. And I also have a downloadable pattern in the description and on my website. So let's get started. Okay, so let's review the materials that we need. Here I have my main fabric. It's 27 inches by the width of fabric, or 42 to 45 inches. And by the way, all the numbers and a downloadable how-to sheet are linked in the description. But let me pull out this handy dandy diagram that I made. So this is kind of showing in rough numbers what the finished pillowcase is going to be. And I just want to point out, I've got these real cute seahorses here, but they're directional, right? So as I was cutting from the bolt, my 27 inches, my seahorses are going to be oriented this way. Okay, so I've got the 27 inches wide and then 21, give or take. You know, there's some seam allowance built in there, but it's a long piece that gets folded up. So your final pillowcase will be approximately these dimensions. If you want it a little bit longer, then cut it longer. Maybe you have a king pillow, but I would suggest widening some of these pieces as well to keep her proportional. But in any case, if you have a directional print, maybe you want it to go like this, right? Maybe you want it to be this way because it's the way you're going to display it on the bed, or for some other reason. So, you know, you're the leader, the king or queen of your own pillowcase, but keep that in mind. So as I cut this one from the bolt, and here you see my selvage, it's going this direction and my selvage is up here. Speaking of that, you may notice that I trimmed my selvage a little bit. So we're doing a French seam for this pillowcase, and we're going to have seam allowances 2 times, but I was a little worried that this white might show, so I trimmed my selvage a little bit. Another option would just be to increase your final seam allowance a little bit, and that's a perfectly valid solution to that as well. So our main fabric, 27 inches by approximately width of fabric. Next, the next piece I have is this accent piece. It is 2.5, and I've pressed it right sides out. That's my little accent piece. And then I have a cuff as well. I'm sorry, I bumped the camera there. So I have my cuff as well, and this one's not directional, but let me tell you a little bit about what to do if your cuff is directional. So I'm going to bring back my diagram, and I'm going to bring back these little helper dogs. Okay, because these guys are directional. It's going to help you visualize. Okay, so when I start putting my pieces together, if I lay my puppies this way, face up and up and down to my view, then on the final pillowcase, they're going this way. Okay, if I want the puppies to stand this way on the pillowcase, right, then when I lay it out, they're going to be upside down to my perspective. Okay, so if you're doing a directional cuff, that's going to give you a little bit of info of how to lay it out there. Okay, so let's go straight to step 1. And the first thing you want to do is lay your cuff out long ways, right side up. Okay, so this is the first step right here. Then you're going to take your cuff your accent, pardon me. And you're gonna line up the raw edges. Then the last thing we're gonna do is put the main fabric on right side down. So you've got cuff right side up, accent piece, and then the main fabric. And you're gonna pin that all the way across. Now don't worry, I won't show you how to pin 42 inches. I'm sure you can handle it. I'll just do a few here. And then I'll show you step 2. Okay, so imagine I've gone all the way. Then for step 2, I'm gonna take the main fabric and fold it up from the bottom like this. And I'm just gonna kind of do this. All right, then take the cuff and line up the raw edges there as well. And again, you're doing this, oops, the entire length of the fabric. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna finish pinning this, and I'm gonna take it over to the machine, and we're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way down to make a gigantic tube. Then I'll meet you back here and tell you the next steps. Here's my tube. Now the next step is to turn the tube inside out. Now we iron. So we're gonna press the seams here. Okay, make sure you get this top part up here, and we're just gonna press them real nice and flat. I'll meet you back here and show you the next step. Okay, we're all pressed, and I folded this in half the long way. I folded it up, and I'm making sure you can see that my seams are aligning really well. And I also trimmed a little bit. I had a little bit of excess sticking up the top, so I kind of squared it up. And now I'm gonna pin, so these two seams, they stay that way as I'm sewing, and I'm going to give it a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way down. This is the first part of our French seam where the raw edges are gonna be encased, and it's a pretty cool final product. I think you're gonna like it, but it starts with wrong sides together. Okay, right sides out, and we'll do that 1/4 inch. This is a quick interlude to show folks how to turn the corner if you don't know how. So I've gone down one of the sides. I'm going almost to the edge. Maybe one more. I'm gonna lift up my foot while the needle is down, of course. Just pivot, back down, and continue. And that's how you turn the corner. Now that I've finished sewing down the two sides, this way and this way, I'm going to cut the corner off, taking care not to break that stitch line. And this will just be very helpful when we turn it inside out, because that's what we're going to do next. We're going to turn it inside out, and then we're going to press it. Okay, so what I want is, yikes, come on now, there we go. I want this seam here to be pressed so as much of it as possible is trapped on the inside. Okay, nice and sharp pressing. And then we're gonna sew using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm back from sewing my second pass with the 1/2 inch seam allowance. And as you can see, I've turned it right side out and I pressed it again like I did the first time. So now on the inside of our finished pillowcase, there are no raw edges. They're all encased here. There's no serging, there's no zigzagging, none of that stuff. It's all just nice and neat and tucked away. All that's left is to put a pillow in. And we're done. Thank you so much for sewing with me. I'm gonna go take a nap now. Like and subscribe.